announce the time. But if something bad does happen, it wasn't me. I really didn't send that text. Look, I want to introduce myself and also my team. So my name is Arron Ortego. I'm the Executive Director of Autism Services of Southwest Louisiana. And with me today, I have Ms. Kylie Ollinger. I'm not sure what she does, but she hangs around. She does marketing and HR. That's the real truth. Miss Missy here, Miss Missy Griffin, she's the Director of Operations for us. And then we have Miss Hannah Martinez, and she's our Program Supervisor. And Miss Emily Gillis, and she is our Director of Nursing. So we have other staff in the office, but these are the key crew that I brought with me today. Our organization is a nonprofit organization. It's built up of two companies. We have one company called Autism Services. That company provides housing for adults on the autism spectrum. So we actually have 6 homes at this time. We're trying to get more, but we have 6 really nice homes. It's not typical group homes. They're actually very nice. They're beautiful inside. They all have their own rooms. They have their own bathrooms. So it's not just throwing 3 people in one room and saying, make it work. So we're real proud of that. And then our other company is called Direct Care. So Direct Care Inc. That is the nurses, CNAs, PCAs, and physicians, if we need them, that we get into the houses and provide care in our houses as well as houses in the community. So we also take care of non-autistic but disabled people in the community. We'll send staff to their house, mom or dad, brother, sister. They're taking care of someone with autism or any other disability. They have to go to work. They leave for work. We go in 8 hours a day, take care until the caregiver gets back home. So that's some of the services that we provide. I just wanted to kind of let you know who we were and what we did. So let's define autism. Autism is a developmental disorder of variable severity that is characterized by difficulty in social interaction and communication and by repetitive patterns of thought and behavior. So that's the true definition of autism. Before I go further, I do want to thank everyone in this room for being here and also for what you do. We all understand that there's probably a lot of rewarding moments in your industry, and there's probably some very tough moments in your industry. So we really want to sincerely thank you for everything that you do, and we appreciate you for being here. Statistics. So some basic statistics when it's related to autism. Individuals with autism spectrum disorder are 7 times more likely to intersect with the criminal justice system than individuals without ASD. 26%, or roughly 1 in 4 people, have some type of disability within the United States. 1 in 44 children are born and later diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. The video we will show in a little bit, it actually says 1 in 50, but that was 8 years ago. Okay, that video is from 8 years ago. So this is the up-to-date 2021, because in 22 we'll get a new one, but in 21 it's 1 in 44 children. That's the current numbers we're dealing with. Autism prevalence has increased by 178% since the year 2000. Genetics are a major cause of autism spectrum disorder. Prematurely born babies are at higher risk of autism. Children born to older parents are at high risk of autism as well. Some of the things you'll see with an autistic child or adult is major depression, anxiety, a high risk of seizures, and just a few other medical and psychosocial aspects involved with living on the autism spectrum. So it is Miss Missy Griffin's turn.
Thank you, Arron. So good afternoon, everyone. As Arron mentioned, my name is Missy Griffin. I am the Director of Operations for Direct Care and Autism Services of Southwest Louisiana. For the last year and a half, I have had the honor to provide support for autistic adults here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. During this time, I've had the opportunity to learn and grow with the organization and hopefully provide some insight into autism and how to improve interactions with first responders. As a provider of care for adults on the spectrum, we take the time to undergo a client-centered learning process. This process allows us to understand each client's individual needs and sensory issues, to understand what types of situations might trigger an emotional response. This allows our frontline staff to educate a first responder about the person involved at the scene of an emergency. And in addition to this, we have ensured that all of our addresses of our homes are registered with 911, indicating to dispatch that they are responding to an address where these residents have autism. I'd like for everyone here today to open up your imagination. Envision yourself in this scenario. You're a cop on duty. Should be pretty easy. Dispatch notifies you of a call where a grandmother advised her 15-year-old grandson was refusing to go to bed, and he was threatening to run away. Dispatch advised previous calls mentioned a teenage male lived at this location who had some form of disability or autism. When you arrive, the grandmother states she had taken her grandson's cell phone and told him to go to bed. It was around 11 o'clock at night. At first you're thinking, I can't believe I'm really here for this. You knock on the teen's door and hear, come in. When you open the door and make eye contact with this young man, he lets out the loudest scream, jumps off of his bed and hides in his closet. As he sits in his closet, curled up and scared for his life, he begins to scream, please don't shoot me, please don't. Your first instinct is to step back and try to calm him down by talking in a low voice. Hey buddy, it's okay. I'm just here to talk with you. After what seems like a very long 5 minutes, the young man comes out of his closet and sits on the bed. You ask him why he is so scared of the police. To your surprise, he tells you his brother had been shot by a police officer only a couple of months prior. Realizing his last name and speaking with the grandmother, you know exactly who his brother was and recognize this to be true. The young man tells you he doesn't want any trouble. He just wants his phone back so he can look at some pictures of his brother to calm himself down. You ask the grandmother for the phone, and she agrees. When you hand him the phone, he begins to cry again and let out a very quiet thank you, and begins to show you pictures of his brother. Before you leave, you ask him if he could listen to his grandmother and just lay down. He shakes his head yes. You provide your contact information and assure the young man, if he ever needs anything, to call the sheriff department and ask for you. He shakes your hand but doesn't say anything. You're not really sure how he feels about cops after this experience, but you feel like you were able to show him many people became cops to try to help people, not hurt them. The story I shared was a real-life encounter. It was shared with me by a former Calcasieu Parish Sheriff's officer. I shared this scenario because during my presentation, I want to identify the 3 main assumptions that can create a misconception between an autistic person and a first responder. Assumption number 1, authority. A first responder might assume that a badge, a patrol car, or their uniform sends a strong message that they have authority at a scene. A person with autism does not always understand this and might respond inappropriately. They might be overwhelmed by police presence. A loud voice might frighten them. The noise from a siren might represent another loud, scary monster that makes their ears heard. Or strokes from a police car can trigger a negative medical response, such as a seizure. There are possibilities they will not respond to stop or other commands. They may have speech or language barriers, avoid eye contact, and engage in repetitive behaviors such as rocking, stimming, or flapping their hands. On the flip side, a response from an autistic individual might result in a response that suggests they are challenging you in some way. That badge on your chest might appear as a shiny object that sparkles in the light, and they just are drawn to touch it. The weapon on your belt may be the first one they have seen real life, and that person references it from one of their favorite cartoons. At Autism Services of Southwest Louisiana, we take various steps to ensure a level of familiarity with first responders, to ensure that the clients we serve had a positive interaction. We create situations that allow a level of trust to be built. As you can see on our screen, here's a photo of one of our clients. He wanted to be photographed at the sheriff's office, so he's there decked out in full uniform. In our next photo, our local fire department came to celebrate one of our clients' birthdays. At Autism Services, we also try to incorporate appropriate safety awareness. And this brings me to my next assumption that can create a misconception. Assumption number 2, help. The assumption is that they know you are there to help. You are the good guy. So many things should be obvious in these situations. This is an emergency. I am there to help you. You must follow my instructions in order for me to help you. Or I need information just so I can help you. When officials arrive on the scene, it is vital that they over-communicate they are there to help. In many cases, the victim's fight or flight instinct may be so active that you perceive them as a threat. In these scenarios, a clear, calm, simple approach is critical. I had the opportunity to consult with a 7-year veteran of Acadiana Ambulance. Her name was Becky Vickner. She shared some tips she had used to ensure a successful response. Becky said how helpful it is to have a request in the call notes for no lights or sirens. What she's learned through past practice is explain very simply what is going on. It is so helpful to ensure that that individual sees you as a friend or an equal. She often spends time getting to know what might interest that person, whether it be video games or watching something on her phone while she assesses them. She allows the person to bring a personal item on the ambulance to help calm them down. And one of the most important tips she has is she tries to get them away from a crowded situation. She said that when she removes them from too much stimuli, she then offers a calming approach. Finally, the last assumption that can create a misconception. Assumption number 3, comprehension. As a provider of care, we take measures to ensure safety awareness is in place, both in our homes and with our frontline staff that take care of these individuals. There are steps in place to educate our clients about safety awareness. Education must be very specific to the individual. Some learn through verbal prompts, and others that are nonverbal can only learn with visual aids. Our organization conducts routine training and evacuation plans in the event of an emergency. We work to ensure the right infrastructure is in place in our homes, such as carbon monoxide detectors, fire extinguishers, and ensure our staff is trained to respond. We have created informational binders that we can share with an EMT when they arrive on the scene. They include face sheets, a comprehensive list of medications, and other demographics important to that person. Often when responding to a scene, there is limited information. So look for clues that indicate an autistic person might be involved. There could be advocacy awareness stickers or symbols, seemingly age-inappropriate toys, such as Sesame Street toys and No Child Present, age-inappropriate interest in clothing, Christmas shirts in July, assistive communication devices or apps, and ID bracelets or tags. I have one last story to share. I had the opportunity to speak with the captain of a volunteer fire department. He's been on the department since 2015. He shared with me his experience responding to a call where a person had autism. Dispatch notified the fire department about a structure fire. When they arrived on the scene, the family was outside. They indicated their adult son was inside and that he had disabilities. His last known suspected location was his bedroom in the center of the house. They knew this because his bedroom was his safe space, and he likely didn't know how to get out. There was an admission from the parents. They didn't have enough family drills for him to know how to get out from the space he was in. When their search and rescue team found him, he was sitting in his room on the floor, rocking back and forth. The first thing the firemen did was introduce themselves and tell him that why they were there. But it still took 5 minutes, a lot of verbal coaxing, removing their face masks, and using simple verbal prompts to coax him out of his space. Safety is number one. We must find ways to keep safety at the forefront of our interactions with autistic individuals and our first responders. While we were able to cover some tips today, it is so important that this starts with the families from the time the individual is young, that they have enough drills to ensure they can safely evacuate a situation, and that they know that firefighters, EMTs, and cops are there to help. Thank you for your time and willingness to learn more about our autistic community.
So next is the family perspective. So we actually have one of our clients, and his mother is actually on our board. So we're able to talk to her quite often and kind of get an unbiased opinion. So these are some tips that came from her as far as what she's seen and some of the interactions in the past. So basically, when anxious, they may be talking loudly about things not pertaining to what is happening. Somebody runs to get away. It's that fight or flight that they hit very quickly. Okay, and I'll explain some of that in a little bit. Speak slowly, with as few words as possible in a soothing voice. That's the best way to get them to calm down and listen. The louder you speak, the more they got too much going on in their head. They don't know if they're under attack. They're getting scared. They're fearful, and you're going to get zero out of them. In fact, you may get behaviors that they don't want to see, and we've escalated the situation. If you need to touch them, always ask permission. Never just grab. Obviously, there could be some certain situations where you have to grab somebody with a weapon or something like that. We get it. But with no weapon, if we're just talking to them to try to de-escalate, we'll try to avoid the touching if possible. But that triggers a lot of them. And I mean, almost every client that we have, that is a trigger. Walk up and just touch them immediately, that is a trigger. You're going to get some negative reaction. But if you ask permission or if you talk them through it, then you'll see that you'll get a better response. Explain everything that is happening, reassure them, using a few words as possible. Teach your child, well, this is on the other side of things, but teaching the children their name and phone number to eliminate confusion. Another thing too is if you're having someone that is nonverbal, many of them can still write. So if you give them pen or paper, they can write things down for you. So that could be a calm approach, that we give them pen or paper, ask a question, let them write. We have a couple nonverbal in our homes that can write better than I can. So it's, that's, you just have to find a way. You got to talk with the parents, the caregivers that are there, whoever's related, whoever's taking care of them to be able to get to that point. One of the things that I want to say, I heard it earlier, actually in the keynote speaker. She said, if you've met one autistic person, you've met exactly only one autistic person. It's not cookie cutter. What they're going to do or what they're going to say, how they're going to react to things, it's going to be different for everyone. A lot of them have overload in the brain. They can't process these things very quickly. So when they get into that fight or flight, that's why it's so important that we take an approach to slow it down, calm them down, talk about something they like. If you talk about something they like, they immediately draw to you. And they see you as a good guy. Because now you're communicating about something that means something to them. So those are some very important pieces as well.
Started. Have you ever had an encounter with a first responder, like a firefighter, or a cop, or an ambulance?
I know I had, when I was remember that time with the cops when they all came to see me when I had to, go out and have care.
Gotcha. So, how did they treat you whenever they showed up?
Well, the paramedics came and they put a thing around my arm.
Oh, okay. With a blood pressure cuff or a tourniquet?
No, ice pack, because I had a burn when I had it. So.
Ice pack. Okay. Well, how did it make you feel whenever they got here?
A little bit, maybe a little nervous, but better.
A little nervous, but better.
Yeah.
Good. Well, what did you learn from that experience with them? Or what would you like to share with other people that have autism whenever a paramedic shows up?
Speak to the paramedic.
Speak to the paramedic.
Yeah.
Well, how does that help when you speak to them?
Makes me feel good, like talking about what they do.
Yeah. Very good. Well, thank you so much for answering my questions, Brennan.
We really thought that Mr. Brennan was going to tell the story that he usually tells, because at the Mardi Gras parade, he did not leave a single police officer alone. He walked from police officer to police officer, corner to corner, and he would tell them, hey, I know that autism is not an excuse to commit crime. Because he did have an altercation where he became physical with someone, and the cops were called, and that's what they told him, and that stuck with him. I mean, he still says that today. He's never had a violent outburst since, and it's like just, you know, that officer took the time to get into his world for a little bit, built a trust level, and I'm going to talk in a little bit about what makes them lose trust in people, what makes someone with autism almost lose hope. They don't feel like they're normal people. And it's our job to make them feel normal. It's our job to make them feel like they're real people, because they are, and they want to be, and there's so many times they're not treated that way. So, you know, but he did, he picked that up. He said, you know what, autism is not an excuse to commit crime. And he'll tell you that today, and he hasn't done it again, and that was about 6 years ago. So, you know, those little things stick with him. So we're going to play a little video. This is actually a first responder training. It's an official training video. We're going to play that, and then right after I'm going to kind of explain a lot of what's on there, and then show you guys what you can do to make it successful, make it safe and successful during the interaction.
Interest or other behavior that appears irregular to you. Keep in mind that you might have to determine whether an autistic person is present. Some of the suggestions you are about to see may help you with preventing or de-escalating a situation before it gets worse. One area of considerable concern has been the alarming increase of children diagnosed with some form of autism. In fact, in the year 2000, 1 in 150 children born was diagnosed on the spectrum of autism disorders. That number was recently increased to 1 in 50 and more prevalent in males than females. So that means the chances are increasing that your next call may involve an autistic victim, witness, or defendant. Let's take a look at what you might encounter. Sensitivity to sound at a domestic call. An autistic child is a witness. When arriving at the scene, standard protocol requires stabilizing the scene as best you can. As is always the case, your safety is the #1 priority. If there's difficulty stabilizing the scene because of the behavior of an agitated person.
She hit you at all?
An autistic boy is the witness. You will need to talk to him. He's seated on the side porch, distracted by loud sounds like sirens or a barking dog. The sooner it's determined an autistic person is who you're dealing with, the sooner a potential explosive situation might be diffused. In this situation, the witness to the domestic appears to be uncooperative. No one has revealed to you he's autistic, so this is what you look for. Sensitivity to sound, covering his ears, sensitivity to light, sensitivity to touch. They often cover their ears. Sirens and barking dogs and shouting and high-pitched noises lead an autistic person to become agitated. They will look away with poor eye contact and will often provide vague, non-committal, confusing answers to your questions. If you're dealing with a potential suspect who is autistic, vague answers, poor eye contact, and non-responsiveness are not necessarily evidence that the suspect is guilty of any wrongdoing. They may have out of the ordinary or unusual sounding speech, rhythm, or tone to their voice. They may respond to you using lines from movies or TV shows called scripting, which may not be exactly appropriate under the circumstances. Echoing or repeating what you say, picking at skin or clothing, poor concentration, hitting themselves. Don't try to stop repetitive behavior unless it's injuring the person or is creating a dangerous situation. Try wrapping the person in a blanket if they need to be restrained. Remove the person to a safe area where they can continue their behavior, which should help soothe the person. Watch for peculiar mannerisms like rocking, pacing, hand flapping, humming, bouncing, not responsive to your directions or questions. They might outright ignore you or even laugh. The point is, each autistic person is unique and may act or respond differently under similar situations. Let's go back to our scenario. So, you determine there is an autistic witness. How do you get him to cooperate even though he's agitated by the barking canine? Approach the person in a quiet, non-threatening manner. Identify yourself as a police officer. Try to avoid quick motions as the person may become scared. Speak in a slow manner, as calmly as possible, and make sure you allow time for delayed responses to your questions or directions. Use as few words as possible, and use positive reinforcement if possible. It would be wise to remove your sunglasses so that you don't appear threatening to the person who has autism. Be wary of the biter often found with non-verbal persons with autism. If he still appears agitated by the barking canine, ask him if he will come with you and walk away from the sound of the barking canine. You can also have the canine officer remove the dog. And don't forget, autistic people may be attracted to shiny objects like your badge, nameplate, keys, handcuffs, or even your service revolver. Anything shiny. In this scenario, a boy is attracted to a shiny wheel. Clearly a situation that may cause you to lose your temper. These same suggestions on how to properly respond to autistic people also apply to other first responder situations. Autistic persons may also have underdeveloped muscles. If you're handcuffing such an individual, turn them on their side to avoid prolonged time facing down. Don't be surprised if the person continues to struggle with you, and be aware some autistic people demonstrate surprising strength while agitated. An autistic person may be frightened and not understand the situation. Make sure you notify any holding facility that you have a person who suffers from autism so they are aware of the situation as well. Now, let's take a look at another important scenario to help you. Sensitivity to pain. You're called to rush to the scene of a one-vehicle accident involving injuries. You encounter two victims, a driver, a parent, and a return passenger seated outside the vehicle. Your task is to find out from that person what happened. Is he injured, and to what extent, and what happened? You notice the person is distracted by the sounds of sirens and won't make eye contact with you. At this point, you should be thinking, could this child be autistic? One of the things common to autistic persons is their threshold for sensitivity to pain. As mentioned earlier, some autistic persons are highly sensitive to pain and are bothered by the slightest touch. However, some autistic people, like in this scenario, are not highly sensitive to pain. Some are the opposite, are hyposensitive. That could be critical where a life-threatening injury is not articulated by the autistic person to you as a first responder. In this case, the officer learned about a serious injury only after he had the child lean forward.
Hey, what happened, buddy? What happened?
At no time before that did the child complain about an injury to his back. Keep an eye on an autistic person at an accident scene. They might want to get back into the car. In fact, when responding to a house fire, if an autistic person is removed, they have been known to try to go back into the burning home. It is familiar to them, and they may not understand what is happening. If you you find yourself searching a burning residence, autistic persons may actually hide from you. Make sure to check places like closets, cabinets, under beds, or even clothes dryers. Let's take a look now at another scenario. The meltdown. A 911 operator asks you to proceed to a school bus stopped in a neighborhood. You're told a student is acting erratically and yelling, threatening to harm others with a baseball bat.
How many people are on here?
You arrive and notice the bus is clear except for the suspect. Normal protocol dictates you learn the child's name, if anybody knows the child. Or if anybody knows if he or she has done this before or is on medications. And the question that should be routine to you now, is this person autistic? In this case, through questioning the bus driver and others, you find out the suspect you're dealing with is autistic. As you've learned, when tactically permissible, approach the autistic suspect slowly, calmly, and in a non-threatening manner. Identify yourself as a police officer. An autistic person may not know who you are. Reassure them that you are not there to hurt them. If you want them to behave in a certain manner, remember, you have to show them what you mean. Demonstrate the behavior. For the most part, autistic people understand direct instructions with literal meaning versus abstract, general terminology. Here are some examples of abstract commands that might not be understood versus direct instructions. Give me your attention versus the more preferable, look me in the eyes. Listen up versus listen to me. Cut that out, knock it off versus stop that. Spread eagle versus spread your legs apart. And when talking to a witness who is autistic, remember, again, to use direct language when asking them questions. Leading questions can be problematic. Leading questions, for example, the car was going too fast, wasn't it? An autistic person may likely say yes. A non-leading question that would work here is, was the car going fast or slow? The point here is that autistic people are known to respond to questions with answers they think you want to hear. Don't interpret a person's failure to respond to questions or commands as a lack of cooperation or respect. They simply may not understand you. Consider Miranda warnings. Remember, an autistic person is likely to respond that he understands Miranda warnings when in fact they have no idea what was just said.
Okay, I need you to look at me. Can you just look at me? Do you understand the rights I just read to you?
Yes.
Are you sure?
No.
Do you understand the rights that I read to you?
Yes.
Do you wish to waive those rights?
See, this autistic boy takes you literally on the word wave. Responses may be difficult to understand, address and phone numbers all jumbled together. A confession may be a way for the person to say anything he thinks will make you happy.
Do you understand the rights that I've read to you?
Yes.
So that the questioning situation ends and they can get back to their daily routines. Again, they're answering the question in a way they think will allow them to get back to their own routine. Let's take a look now at a very important scenario called the wanderer. Wandering, or as some call it, running, is not the result of bad parenting. Autistic children and adults can be behaviorally challenging and can run off without notice. The dangers can be deadly. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, a leading cause of death in people with autism is drowning. A person with autism may be compared to the elderly with Alzheimer's who's also a wanderer.
Last scene over this way here, what we're gonna do.
Here, you are called to a wooded area to help with the search for a wanderer who is autistic. There is fear that the wanderer could drown in a nearby pond or be injured by the harsh elements. Ask the parent if the child is wearing a GPS or tracking device. The search here is conducted by air and on the ground. It's imperative to get to the pond and prevent him from drowning. Also, a lost child may not realize they're lost. It's not uncommon for a child with autism to run and hide for fun and be gone for hours. They often become distracted by their surroundings. Ask the parent or caregiver what the wanderer likes. For example, maybe the wanderer likes goldfish crackers or maybe grape soda. If so, try to locate these items for the search team members to use for luring the wanderer. Or dislikes, as in barking dogs. The point here is that it may be avoiding your calls to them. Your search must be more intensified with ground search and party members closer together to discover hiding places. You might even consider playing the wanderer's favorite song over a loudspeaker. Remember, autistic people have trouble tolerating multiple stimuli, such as flashlights, barking dogs, sirens, radios, and consider this: a found child with autism may try to run again, so watch them closely for sudden actions. Search areas around swimming pools, water towers, construction sites, railroad tracks in particular. Autistic persons may demonstrate the same or similar behavior of persons committing criminal acts. In Unedited County and in time in other counties, you will soon encounter stickers like these. This sticker indicates a special needs person resides at the location. This sticker should be located on or around the front door. This sticker indicates there is a special needs person in the vehicle. This should be located in the rear of the vehicle. Residents will be able to get these stickers at their local police departments after they complete a brief premise alert system application, which will be forwarded to the 911 centers so they will let you know that an autistic person resides at that address, or that the autistic person tends to run and the house might have reinforced locks to keep them from running.
Right? Have they been sworn in?
Yes, Your Honor.
As for court, make sure you are prepared for how your autistic victim or witness may act prior to the preliminary hearing, trial, or other court proceeding. Inform the prosecutor assigned to your case about any behaviors, quirks, fears, or other issues your autistic victim or witness may have. The prosecutor can then notify the presiding judge, hearing officer, or district judge about a particular behavior so that the behavior is not misinterpreted and thereby striking a blow against your case. For example,
Why are we chewing gum?
Why are you chewing gum?
State your name.
State your name.
Are you being smart with me?
Are you being smart with me?
That's enough.
That's enough.
Seriously, Counselor?
in summary, here are some things to remember. Your safety comes first. Determine if you are dealing with an autistic person or persons. Look for poor eye contact, hand flapping, indifference to the situation, tantrums, or echolalia. Speak slowly using simple language. Allow more time for responses. Be aware of insensitivity to pain, or the opposite. Remember, they may not respond to or understand your commands or warnings. Determine and locate luring items for a wanderer. Wanderers, begin your search at nearby water sources, railroad tracks, or favorite runaway points. Notify your prosecutor, district judge, or trial judge about behavior that might be expected from your victim or witness. Notify jail officials if your offender is autistic. Again, the chances are increasing that your next call may involve an autistic victim, witness, or defendant. We thank you for watching, and we thank the following for making this training video available to you.
Can you tell me you paid?
All right, has anyone in here encountered a situation with someone who was autistic or had a disability? Anyone at all? They may want to share their story or how it went, whether it was good or bad. Not all at once. Yes, sir.
We have a kid we deal with, very suddenly on Boat Road. He always runs away from his house. In order for us to get him back, he loves our lights. So we
There you
put
go.
those lights on, he comes back.
That attracts him.
home.
It's funny how that works. With some, those lights will push them away, and with some, they'll come to you. So, and a lot of times, what we found is the noise. You can have the lights, but not the sirens, and they'll be fine. And then we've seen it where actually some of them like the sirens. So you never know. You really just never know. Anybody else? Anybody else want to share stories, positive, negative reaction, anything?
A couple years back in patrol, I confronted a person. But I repeated everything he said, so they thought I was listening to him.
Right. That's important. They get so frustrated. That's what I'm about to talk about. The frustration that they feel, we see that every day. And let me tell you why they get frustrated. So some of these stats are terrible, in my opinion, or in everybody's opinion, it should be. But look, 30% of women are sexually abused in the general population. 30%. With autism, it's 2 to 3 times higher than that with women. So that means that sexual abuse takes place somewhere between 60 and 90% of these people. That's crazy numbers. That's just crazy numbers. Unfortunately, they're in a position where maybe they can't tell of what's happening, or they can't reach out to someone, they're nonverbal. They become a target by people within their own home, people that they're close to. So when you're talking about 60 to 90%, that means when you run into these autistic individuals, there's a pretty good chance they've either been physically abused or they've been sexually abused at a young age and even to the older ages. It's terrible, it's really sad. And that's why we love when we can bring them into our operation, because we protect them. We have people there with them 24 hours a day, and we beg to get people out of those scenarios and situations and put them into our homes. That's why we're building and buying new homes, and we just bought 2 homes here recently, so we can increase the amount of people we can take care of. But you got to think about that, because even the boys and the men, they're also on that same level, the same percentages for sexual abuse. Men and women on the spectrum, they suffer from the triad of trauma, which includes neglect. A lot of autistic children are neglected tremendously. Parents get frustrated. Parents get tired of it. Parents get overwhelmed and they can't do it. A lot of times it's single parents that are involved, or even grandparents who just can't keep up anymore. The parents aren't even in the picture. They're in prison. They're gone away. They're dead. And you have to have a grandparent taking care of them, and that becomes very tough. So what happens is there's a lot of neglect. There's physical abuse at an extremely high rate, and obviously bullying at school and work. That's what this clientele is dealing with. That's what this population deals with. Everyday negativity, and we're trying to tell them how great they are and that they can beat this, they can learn, and they can. We've watched people that have come into our programs that are nonverbal and then leave the program talking, able to get a job, they get some behavioral therapy, they get a comfort level, and they start building a little bit of confidence, and they get out and they do some good things. All they want to do is feel like they can do something positive in this world. They want to be just like everyone else. They want to contribute. And so that's our job. Our job is to help them contribute. So I just want you to know why when you see some of these things with them, this is the trauma that a lot of them have been through. So this is more of just a compassion thing, like to have that extra compassion to take our time and slow down and not get too angry at things that happen. These terrible things, that they cause mistrust, and they cause people on the spectrum to lose confidence in people in general. So that's why you see the isolation. That's why you see the lack of eye contact, because they don't trust anyone at that point. They've been a punching bag now for years and years and years, and so now it's just they're in a terrible situation. It causes isolation. It causes them to withdraw. Once an individual with autism has had a bad experience, they obsess about it and will always be uneasy in similar situations moving forward. They'll forget some things, but they don't forget those things. Those things are what stick with them. And the minute they see or hear something that reminds them of that, that's it. That's it. we were talking to the keynote speaker, and she was stating that even her daughter, when she would get overwhelmed, she would say things out loud. So her mom kept saying, hey, those things you shouldn't say out loud. You're supposed to be saying that in your head. And her response was, I can't hear anything in my head. There's too many things going on. They don't process things quickly. So all that's in their head, they can't hear it or put it together. It has to come out of their mouth for them to be able to express themselves. And that's terrible for the ones that are nonverbal, because they can't express themselves. Imagine how frustrating that must be. That you have thoughts, you know what you want, but you can't tell a single person what you want. You can't get it out. You can't verbalize it in any way. It creates frustration. Frustration creates anger. And that's what you're going to run into when you're trying to discuss things with them. So that's why it's important to kind of try to get in their world, go about it calmly, and like I said, maybe notepad and pen, and try to help them out. I think when approaching someone with autism, please remember how tough their life has been, and just be a calming presence, so there can be a successful outcome. People with autism suffer from depression. They become angry and frustrated when they cannot communicate thoroughly. We already said that. Keep in mind that people with autism are 10 times more likely to have frequent seizure activity. 10 times. We have a ton in our group that suffer from seizure disorders. So overstimulation, so we're getting too excited, and we're being aggressive towards them. You're going to trigger a seizure. It's going to happen. We've seen it. We've seen even with our staff not trying to be aggressive, but it looked like that, and we've seen seizures. And remember, these seizures can damage the brain or potentially kill them. So that's why it's so important to understand they are so much more likely to have seizures, and it's a bigger reason why we need to just take things slow. Once again, I know having autism is not an excuse for crime. We get that. If someone has a weapon, hey, I get that too. We got to get that out of the way as quick as we can, as fast as we can, the best way we can. But if there is no weapon, and it's something like a runaway or something like that, just approach it calmly. It's imperative that first responders know these facts, so we all can stay calm, communicate with simple words and sentences, take your time, and make them comfortable, and try your best not to look intimidating. So in the video, they said, hey, maybe take off your glasses. That way they can see into your eyes. They can know that you're talking to them. Maybe if you've got 2 or 3 people on the scene, maybe just one person goes and try to start the conversation to see if it could be successful that way. They're going to see one person as being a lot less intimidating than 3 people walking up on them. That's just a fact, and that's something that I think we should try. So a person with autism, how do we identify that? So we've already talked about how we actually register with 911, so when dispatcher will tell you, you're going to that house, you have people with autism that are there. So not all people do that though. Some of it's going to be when you get there, asking questions, where somebody can give you that information, or just identifying some of these things. A person with autism has an impaired sense of danger. They become very overwhelmed by police presence, especially if multiple officers rush in, sirens are left on, or dogs are present and barking. They might have fear of people in uniform. They react with a fight or flight due to anxiety or fear. They may not respond or understand commands. They have delayed speech, and some are completely nonverbal. They may avoid eye contact due to fear or anxiety, engage in repetitive behavior. And like in the video, we don't have to stop the repetitive behavior. That's actually their comfort zone. So when they're doing that, they may still give you answers. You can still talk with them. If the repetitive behavior is not hurting them or someone else, I'd let them keep doing it, because that's what they're finding to comfort them at that moment. I know all these kids have all these squishy toys and these poppets and all that, and that makes them feel comfortable. They find their own way to be comfortable with movements or sounds or different things like that. That's what they utilize as their fidget toys. They may have epilepsy and have a seizure in the anxious moment. We talked about that. They may utilize childlike speech or play. That's probably pretty common, that they're going to kind of act like children. So, once again, we have explained to our crew that autism is not an excuse for committing crimes. We just want everyone to know that there is a safe and successful outcome that's possible, regardless regardless if there's an arrest or not. So first responders should remain patient, give the person space. We've already said use simple and short sentences. Be aware of increased frustration and attempt to eliminate the source if possible. Avoid quick movements and loud noises. Do not touch them unless absolutely necessary, and even then explain what you're doing as you do it. Gather information or tips from a caregiver or family member if they can be contacted. Give them something to write on, and just kind of ask them what they like. What do you like? What are you into? And maybe they'll tell you those things. Maybe they'll tell you it's, I don't know, DC Comics or whatever it is. And there's a good start point. You start talking about what you know, your familiarity with some of that, now you've got it. You've got it. Because now they want to talk about it. You created another obsession where they want to talk about that, so you can drag them out of those negative thoughts that they were having, and then they'll work with you. We do that every day. I mean, we do every single day. We have to do that. Our clients will get stuck on something. We had one last week, was stuck on when he was getting his new DVD. And I mean, just adamant about it. And so much so that he got upset and started punching the floor. And I mean, I don't know if he fractured his hand, but he damaged it pretty good. He just kept hitting the floor because he was upset that his DVD wasn't in at that moment. But to calm him down, it took staff going to get into his world, talk about what he likes, promise him the videos on the way, and then give him that specific date. Here's the date it says it's coming in. So now he'll watch that calendar, and he'll know on that date he's going to get it. Now, hopefully we make it on that date because we'll have broken hands again. But that's the way this works. It's not an easy job, I promise. We already said, if possible, one person to approach someone with autism. Take time and talk about the things they enjoy and build trust. Decrease stimulation as much as you can. Reassure and provide comfort. And those are the main keys to a safe and successful outcome. So, what kind of questions do you guys have? Got some questions. So come on, make some money. Come on, Brandon Miller. None? All right. No questions. Missy, you have a question?
No, do y'all have any feedback for us or any
Yeah.
suggestions for us on the flip side of it? Anything that we can possibly do to improve an outcome?
Do y'all have any type of hotline or services after hours that would help a first responder that they could call into if they encounter a situation to give them guidance?
Yeah, we have a hotline. We have our 24-hour line.
24-hour answering service. But we
So
have
we have
staff
answering
there
service.
24 hours as well that are pretty educated about the person that they're taking care of.
So we have staff in the houses around the clock.
Well, I mean, just in general, anywhere in the parish where somebody, a resource that somebody can get in touch with if they encounter something that they're having a hard time dealing with.
Well, they can certainly call us. Autism Services of Southwest Louisiana. Call us and we'll help. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we consult and we're expanding as is. So we're an organization trying to grow because it's been very small for a lot of years. And like I said, now we've got 2 houses. We're expanding into Baton Rouge in the Hammond area because they didn't have the services that we have. And so it's growing and we're excited about it. So anything you need, give us a call. We love to work with you guys. Anything else? I sure do appreciate it. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate everything that you guys do. And have a good day.